Hello and welcome to Express Sports Podcast for the Day 2 recap of the fourth test between India and Australia at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. And where do we begin today? Should it be the haplessness, sheer hopelessness with the ball at the start of the day, or the collapse, the total brain fade and the drama of the last 20 minutes? I think it'll be better if we start with the latter. But before Vinayak and I get into the thick of things, let's hear from our man on the ground, Sriram Veera, who captures everything that went on the ground, what we saw on TV, and also behind the scenes. So before we begin with Vinayak and me, here's to Sriram Veera.
Hi listeners. We saw today how things can change. It can dramatically change in a matter of just 5-6 minutes. Everything seemed to be going swimmingly well for India in the batting after the initial hiccups. Virat Kohli is not flirting around off stump. Jaiswal was not being over impetuous. Things were they had tried bowling, they tried all the bowlers. Nathan Lyon had gone out of the boundary, as in gone out of play. He was called back. Australians were trying to regroup, but they didn't let go. And then this happens. You all saw the run out, and the reactions were also technically when the ball goes, it's out of your eyesight. The batsman who sees the ball, it's his call. So it will be in the front of the wicket, mid-on, mid-off. It is a striker's call. It goes behind the stump. It's sort of the non-striker's call. But this one was hit so sweetly past Kohli. Kohli must have seen how fast it travelled. He also must have probably not even been ready enough that the single is going to be taken. Jaiswal won. So he just took 2 steps, froze, because he would have known he's already gone to the fielder, I guess. And then he pointed that out, this gesture, and Jaiswal sort of gestured back, and he said it was my call, which it was. The question is whether there was a need for the single, or has there been a communication that we're going to take, or he just expected that Kohli would listen to the call. And just this moment of brain fade, and all games can change. Steve Smith was asked at the press conference that way it was going. Would you have rather had a Kohli fall, or would you rather have had Jaiswal? So he says, I'm not answering that question. Where they were going, both of them were looking really, really good. Jaiswal was looking very good, controlled aggression. And Steve Smith said that Virat looked like he's going to turn on a masterclass because he was very disciplined outside off stump, and everything was going on. So he said at that stage you would have taken anybody's wicket. And then as it happens, Smith said in this kind of situation, then the other guy can go quickly. And that's how what happened. Perhaps for the first time in the match, Kohli sort of flirted with one in the well outside off stump category corridor and edged it. And then, of course, mayhem. Then we lost one more. 20 minutes still to go. Was it wise to send Akashdeep? I don't think so. But anyway, he came, he left. So that was that kind of a dramatic finish. But the morning, you started, Indians didn't use the new ball too well. Bumrah did. Akashdeep for the first time was slightly not too good with the new ball. But Steve Smith played a magnificent knock. So did Pat Cummins. Smith's knock, the things that to notice in Smith is the knots of his heads. Just next time, if you can, apart from the shot, just look at how the knots, they tell a story. When he's hitting through the covers, when he's hitting through the point, when the leg side shot starts coming, bang, flick. The knots, the self-knot that is, you can see where he nods that, this guy feels that he's in control. There was even one leg side flick. There was no leg slip, ball went dangerously past the punt. And there's another knot for that. The plan, I should be careful kind of a knot. His knot still a story, and so does the bat. And here we are now in a very tricky situation. Still, it's relatively a Pata-ish track where the new ball does a bit, of course. So let's see how down the lower orders. Now, we don't have Shubman Gill. Rishabh Pant, who hasn't done much with the bat. Jadeja, who did help India save the follow-on. And you have Washington Sundar, who actually replaced Shubman Gill in this match. It should be interesting. Let's hope what happens tomorrow.
Vinayak, Veera, of course, has spoken. He ends with the whole, toothlessness with the ball and how India were kind of not right there with their morning session especially. But there's a lot more to talk from the last 20 minutes because like the day one, it seemed that, after being battered for the first 2 sessions, India were clawing their way back into the match in the final one. And then suddenly, like we were joking, it was the Wankhede test against New Zealand all over again, a crazy 15-minute period. And it looks like India are now out of this test?
Yeah, just a little bit of role reversals. This time, Jaiswal was run out. Again, a brain fade. We'll get to whose brain fade it was probably a little while later. Then Kohli getting out, not run out this time, but a familiar dismissal, edging outside off stump. And then the night watchman also not doing his job and getting out. So Siraj's role was taken up by Akashdeep. So perfect replay of what happened at the Wankhede against New Zealand. And yeah, if that test is anything to go by, then yeah, this is not looking good for India. Complete waste of a good opportunity. Like we were discussing, right? I mean, it's just so reckless, so annoying, so frustrating. I mean, not even like as we are not stakeholders in the game, but just to watch that sort of cricket is just frustrating.
Of course we are.
No, we are. But I'm saying we are not fans, right? I mean, we're not like people who are sitting in the stands and watching the match, but still, like, just to watch it all unfold is just it's just bad cricket, right? I mean, that's what is frustrating. After having recovered quite well and, getting to a position where they could potentially push Australia with the wicket not offering all that much. It looked all rosy 20 minutes before play and then just boom, collapse. And yeah, like Veera mentioned in his snippet, why were they sending a night watchman with 20 minutes to go? What was the thinking there? Who takes these decisions?
It's crazy.
Like, absolutely mind-boggling to send a night watchman with 20 minutes to go. It's just utterly ridiculous cricket. That's what is, frustrating.
So, let's kind of go up chronology samaji, as the famous saying now goes. and let's focus right now for the time being on the final 15-20 minutes of the day. Now, it was so pleasing to see Yashasvi Jaiswal play that, I think it was a leg lance or a covered on drive kind of a shot that got the 4 and took the partnership between him and Kohli 102 runs. And I mean, like Veera mentioned, and like all of us thought at that moment that this is it. I mean, Yashasvi is looking good for a century. Virat is looking primed for a proper masterclass. And I mean, in my books, it's crazy because, I was just before we started our recording, I saw Irfan Pathan and Sanjay Manjrekar getting into an almighty argument. It was almost like primetime TV debate sort of argument that they got into on the broadcaster's live show. Sanjay Manjrekar was convinced it was Kohli's mistake, and Irfan Pathan was trying to reason that it might not be that one-dimensional. I mean, we don't want to get into what Sanjay Manjrekar and Irfan Pathan think because, well, we have brains of our own. And Vinayak, what side of the debate are you at? I mean, in my books, it's clearly, Virat's fault.
I would actually, I don't know if this counts as sitting on the fence, but I think both were at fault. First of all, there is no need for Yashasvi to go for that quick run this late in the day.
But that's a separate story.
It comes down to that, right? I mean, the problem is, this is like you saw what happened in Pune with Rishabh Pant, a quick single that was absolutely not needed and Pant getting out. Then a quick single at Wankhede, absolutely not needed, Virat Kohli getting out. Now again a quick single here, you're chancing Pat Cummins' arm. We remember last time, or the Border Gavaskar Trophy 2 times before, where Cummins dismissed Cheteshwar Pujara at the end of the day with a direct hit when Pujara was batting on a century, right? I mean, these are basic game awareness. There was no need for Jaiswal to take that quick single in the first place. So that's where I think Jaiswal made a mistake. But having done that, if Kohli was following the basics of calling, like Shriram was saying, if it's the striker's call, if you see the replay, it looks like there is, Yashasvi did make it almost to the non-striker's end. He was running to the danger end. It seemed like there was enough time if Kohli had responded. So that way it is also Kohli didn't trust Jaiswal enough to respond to that single quickly. Why he didn't do that, I don't know. I mean, he's usually ready for a quick single most of the times, even to his own detriment. So I think both are at fault. There was no need for that run, but once Jaiswal took off, I think Kohli should have followed. So yeah, it's kind of where I stand. And I think these quick singles in a test match towards the end of day's play when you're in a comfortable position, these need to stop. How many times are you going to get yourself into trouble? And
outlaw them.
Right. This is harakiri, right?
So it was interesting because, it's crazy for the second consecutive day of this test match, Kohli is in the headlines. On day one, it was for that thing he did with Sam Constas and fined 20% of his match fees. And then today, it's with another youngsters. And Veera, in fact, sent a very interesting observation. If our listeners will look up to the live blog that we run during the match, Veera sent a very interesting tidbit wherein he mentioned that as Yashasvi Jaiswal was walking back to the pavilion, he was near the boundary line, he stopped, he turned around, looked at Kohli and just thumped his chest in a way to say that, it was my call. And we could see it on cameras that Yashasvi was fuming, but we couldn't see this bit that was happening. So clearly, Yashasvi was terribly upset with Kohli. And you wonder if that little moment also affected Kohli's temperament, because what he was doing all day, leaving the ball outside off stump, he suddenly flirted with one and he's gone too.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I mean, given how he was playing, he said in an interview with Ravi Shastri before the test match that he was aware that in the last few innings, he's lacked the discipline that is needed to grind out and score the big runs. And he was showing that for 80 odd balls, he didn't go and poke around the sixth stump line. And Australia also slightly surprisingly bowled a lot at Kohli today. They weren't really peppering him.
I think after the initial balls, they realized he's not going to go outside off.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so they tried and they came back in, and that made Kohli bring out the pull shot. I remember one pull shot that he played for 4, and Sanjay Manjrekar on commentary was like, oh my god, this looks like Kohli of 2018. And yeah, I didn't have a good feeling right then when he said it, but he was looking wonderful for those 80 odd deliveries in the middle. MCG, he loves this pitch. He has precedent of, doing well here. And then, he throws it all away in one moment of madness, once more flirting as he does outside the off stump. Credit to Scott Boland. He probably recognized that here is a lapse of concentration from Kohli, and then he went and targeted that channel again. And, Scotty Boland at MCG is a force to be reckoned with, and he got the wicket. If Kohli was still there, overnight, I would still say India had some chance because he looked really good. But this whole 20-minute period has just, I don't usually do predictions, but I don't think India are going to save the follow-on year, especially given their bizarre team selection before the match. So yeah, it's all looking downhill.
Truly, and we saw an interesting video after Kohli was dismissed and he was walking back to the pavilion. He was relentlessly booed by the fans, and there was something was said. I couldn't catch what was being told to him. But then Kohli is walking into the tunnel. He hears something. He comes out and he just angrily stares at the fan who said something to him. And it was the volunteer/security people who then, patted Kohli on the back and took him away from those people. So certainly 2 tough days for Kohli there. If we have to move on pretty quickly so that we can kind of, capture everything that happened today. Akashdeep, all right, we'll argue about whether it was a smart move to bring him, out with 20 minutes left into play. But Rishabh Pant, his job is to shield the night watchman, now that he was there. And to take the first ball of the over, to take the run and expose Akashdeep for the rest of the over was a stupid thing to do. I don't know. I just don't want to kind of,
Oh, no, I actually disagree. I see the night watchman is supposed to protect the batters. So that's the way I see the night watchman's role. The fact that you were sent 20 minutes ahead to protect batters is stupid. I agree. But you typically want the night watchman to be on strike in the last over so that the batter doesn't get out. So I see it that way. So I don't quite agree there. Rishabh Pant ideally shouldn't be on strike, and ideally a night watchman should be good enough to shield the batters. That's the reason you're sending a tail-ender up the order. But anyway, so yeah, that's 2 sides of the coin, so to speak. Mihir, we've spoken enough about the last 20 minutes. We've spoken, I think, 20 minutes about the last 20 minutes. Slightly earlier, Rohit Sharma, pause.
Oh man, we could just play one of our earlier episodes. I just feel bad now to launch into him. He's, like you had said, right, earlier in one of our episodes, he's a walking wicket right now. And you thought that this looks like a fairly pata wicket. He's had a good score at the MCG earlier, so there would be confidence in everything. But you feel bad for a player, when they're going through a phase like this. But then at the same time, you also hope that the player acknowledges. Like in Virat's case, at least he acknowledged the mistakes he was making and he's trying to make amends. We aren't seeing that with Rohit Sharma, be it his captaincy or his batting, and that is a bigger concern. We've spoken yesterday about the team selection. By the way, it might just come to haunt them right now. The decision to send Akashdeep as a night watchman 20 minutes before time, and his batting, so many calls on the field. Overall, he's going through, I think, a phase which he hasn't really experienced much as a cricketer. I don't think he's dealing with it in the best of the ways possible right now.
Yeah, I agree. We always, I think, within our team, we speak a lot about empathy. So definitely we have to feel bad for, obviously class cricketer going through a bad phase. My issue is beyond that. It's again baffling who's making these calls, right? What is the reason behind demoting KL Rahul, who is the best opener across both teams in the series, to number 3, and make Rohit Sharma go and face a hard new ball against Stark and Cummins? Where is the logic? Who takes these calls is what is it? I keep going back to this. You're supposed to take calls that help the team, right? At this point of time, you're not confident. You know you're struggling against a moving ball and the pitch is getting easier lower down the order. So do that, right? I mean, play, if not open, play number 3. If he had come in at 15 overs, who knows, he might have gotten a few easy deliveries to get going. The cricketing logic is where I'm struggling to make sense of things. And it's such a bizarre dismissal once more. It wasn't even a great ball to start with. And yeah, it's just not looking good for Rohit at all at the moment.
Yeah. Just as we are speaking, our colleague and in-house statistician Lalit Kalidas has sent an incredible piece of stat, and he's looked at Rohit's career averages broken down into the 3 World Test Championship cycles. And between the 2019 to 21 World Test Championship cycle, Rohit's average was 60.77. From 21 to 23, it was 42.11. And 23 to 25, it's dropped down to 29.48. That just sums it up. The direction in which Rohit's career is heading, I don't think anything else captures it better than these stats that Lalit has sent right now. And Vinayak, before I throw it back to you, if anyone's...
Beyond the deep dive, I just want to mention one more stat that's been doing the round on social media. Rohit Sharma's runs in the series 22 and Bumrah's wickets in the series 25. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if he finds any inspiration to salvage this test for India. There's no rain like in Brisbane to help them out. Doesn't look like it'll be raining any of the days in Melbourne. Like Veera said, it's a Pata wicket, so you'd hope that, Pant and Jadeja will stick around for a while, but it will require an almighty job for them to, if they get India past the follow-on mark, then even get too close to Australia's 474. Any parting thoughts, Vinayak?
Yeah, I mean, I hope Washington Sundar and Rishabh Pant and Nitish Kumar Reddy can at least show some fight and push Australia, right? Don't gift wickets. As just a technical cricket watching person, I don't want brain fade runouts and, things like that. That's just very bare minimum expectations from here on.
Right, so I think we'll wrap up with that. We'll hope for a Pant special on day 3 of the Boxing Day test. He did serve a very, very special innings during the last India tour of Australia, and this might not be a bad time to serve one up again. Thank you for listening to yet another episode of the Border Gavaskar Trophy Special. Vinayak, me and Sriram Veera will be back after the day's play on Saturday, and an apology from my end if anyone been hearing kids screaming from in their ears. It's my fault. School's just released below my house, and well, you got to kind of live with it. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.
You were listening to Express Sports by the Indian Express. This show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargav. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.